This morning you hover between two mugs, feeling like the chooser while older habits tug your hand toward the familiar cup. You sense the pull of yesterday's ad, last night's sleep, and the meeting ahead, and wonder how much of this choice already chose you. That tiny hesitation opens the largest debate about free will and whether our decisions are truly ours. One picture imagines a mind floating above causes, selecting without friction, and reinventing itself whenever it pleases. Another claims every thought is a domino toppled by earlier dominoes, making your reach for the blue mug feel pre-written. Most of us live between those extremes, not denying physics and not surrendering agency, building a picture where reasons matter and character grows. On this view, freedom is a pattern inside the chain of causes, where guidance, learning, and reflection change what happens next. Neuroscience is often asked for a verdict, and people cite experiments where brain signals rose before volunteers felt the intention to move. Headlines shouted that the brain decides first, as if consciousness were a late narrator, and free will a story after the fact. Look closer and you see the task was thin, because flexing a wrist for no reason is not the kind of choice where reasons speak. The early signal may be general readiness, rather than a hidden committee finalizing a plan, like an engine idling before you pull away. Later work showed weak prediction and room for veto, suggesting consciousness can brake, steer, and reroute rather than merely comment. To make this practical, imagine action as a river with currents shaped by past experience, bodily state, and the world around you. You cannot leave the water, yet you can learn to read it, plant rocks that shift flow, and build small dams that redirect energy. With that image, three aspects come into focus and turn metaphysics into method. First is the causal chain of action, where desires compete, intentions form, muscles move, and feedback loops adjust the plan. Your appetite for coffee collides with your desire to stay calm, and a quick internal election decides which reason wins the moment. Second is environment, which scaffolds or sabotages your aims by shaping which reasons even show up to vote inside you. Fruit within reach changes breakfast more than lectures, while a buzzing phone trains attention to fracture before it can focus. Third is practical agency, a trainable capacity strengthened by self-monitoring, deliberate practice, and the strategic art of refusal. Breathing drills, reframing, and tiny rituals stretch the pause between impulse and action, giving wiser reasons room to speak. Pair that with structural noes that protect energy, because saying no to misaligned options makes meaningful yeses possible tomorrow. These aspects interlock, since training changes how reasons compete, and design changes which reasons enter the room at all. Law illustrates this every day, asking whether people could appreciate reasons and act on them, not whether causes were absent. Intent, capacity, and context matter, because they reveal whether the inner election was fair or distorted by coercion or deprivation. Addiction complicates the story, since intense cravings can bulldoze the gap between urge and act. Yet recovery shows capacities can be rebuilt. People reshape environments, remove triggers, recruit supportive peers, and practice scripts for risky moments, strengthening guidance when it wobbles. The compatibilist sees freedom in that restoration, because freedom becomes reason's responsiveness that can grow, rather than a mystical spark you either have or lack. A strict determinist can still claim the restoration was inevitable, yet different inputs create different lived futures, which is the terrain that actually matters. A libertarian about free will wants origination beyond causes, but risks turning choice into randomness by severing reasons from outcomes. Compatibilism places dignity in guidance control, the capacity to grasp reasons and steer accordingly through predictable turbulence. Consider a manager who used to snap under stress and then drown in repair work afterward. By tracking early warning signs, moving meetings away from triggers, and rehearsing a pause line, she adjusts the chain at several points and changes her future. Nothing supernatural happened, yet her behavior now tracks reasons she endorses on a calm Sunday, which is how lived freedom feels. People worry that prediction would erase responsibility, as if forecasting your afternoon proves agency is an illusion. Forecasts are conditional, and small design changes flip conditions, opening different futures with surprisingly modest adjustments. Responsibility grows where capacities are nurtured, which is why sleep policies, humane schedules, and honest technology are freedoms made visible. Attention is a commons you must defend, because depleted attention defaults to whatever is easiest and most engineered. Create structural yeses that remove friction from good choices, like automating savings, pre-scheduling workouts, or placing your tools within easy reach. Add structural noes that reduce temptation, such as uninstalling attention traps, storing sweets out of sight, or declaring device-free hours at home. If-then scripts turn reflection into reflex by deciding in advance how to handle the moments that reliably trip you. If the meeting runs long, then water before any second coffee. And if the debate heats up, then ask one clarifying question before defending anything. Structure is not rigidity. Structure expands what remains possible when your energy dips and your impulses get loud. Small acts of regulation compound into character, like quiet deposits that grow until the balance carries you through storms. As environment and habit shift, reasons become more audible and start winning elections inside you without shouting. When the mugs return tomorrow, you are not just choosing a drink, you are practicing the infrastructure for harder choices to come. Which small design would make your better option easier, and which small refusal would guard your attention from being rented out? Who could witness your commitments without turning into a warden? And what if then script could interrupt the pattern you are tired of calling your personality? Carry this image when the road turns slick, because life is a slippery road, and your mind holds a steering wheel. You can learn to grip more skillfully. You stand at the sink with 2 mugs again, and the reach of your hand feels simple, until you notice the older currents that guide it without asking. The currents include your sleep, your stress, your memories, and the little promises you made to yourself in quieter moments when reasons could speak clearly. The question under the mugs is larger than coffee, because it asks what freedom can mean if every motion has causes that run deeper than your awareness. One vision says every act is fixed by earlier dominoes, and your choice is only the echo of physics wearing a human mask. Another vision says you sometimes originate choices outside all causes, and dignity requires a spark that cannot be explained by anything that came before. A middle path claims freedom lives inside causes as guidance, where your decisions answer to reasons you recognize and are willing to own after the heat fades. That claim does not demand miracles and does not deny science, because it sees agency as a skill that grows with practice and design. Consider the studies where brain readiness rose before people reported intending to move, which ignited a rush to declare consciousness a narrator that always speaks too late. Those tasks were thin and nearly reasonless, and later work showed prediction was weak, and veto remained possible when attention was trained to catch the urge. The point is not to fight the lab, because the point is to build the pause that lets better reasons enter before the motion becomes automatic. Picture action as a river you cannot leave, with currents formed by history, biology, and rooms you move through without noticing their quiet instructions. You cannot step onto dry land beyond causation, yet you can plant rocks that change the flow and build little dams that redirect energy toward the life you want to live. 3 practices help you do it with less drama and more dignity, and each practice strengthens the others like braided rope. The first practice honors the causal chain, where desires compete, intentions form, muscles move, and feedback adjusts the plan in real time under changing conditions. You can help the wiser desire win by lengthening the distance between impulse and action with breathing, counting, and a practiced sentence that buys you 6 more seconds. You can make the inner election fairer by sleeping before debates, because tired juries vote for whatever is easiest, and ease is frequently the enemy of later peace. The second practice shapes environment before temptation arrives, because placement, timing, and defaults decide which reasons get to speak inside you. Put fruit within reach and sugar far away, and you will choose better breakfasts without needing a pep talk that never arrives on time. Move attention traps 3 swipes deep and charge your phone outside the bedroom, because friction is kindness when your future depends on a quiet morning. The third practice trains practical agency through bright lines and small rehearsals that turn reflection into reflex under pressure. No drinks on weeknights is sturdier than drink less, and a rehearsed pause line is sturdier than hoping eloquence appears when your pulse is pounding. These moves change lived responsibility, which is why law asks whether you could appreciate reasons and act on them, not whether causes were absent from the scene. Addiction shows how the gap can collapse when cravings bulldoze the pause, and recovery shows how scaffolding, peers, and scripts can rebuild the gap slowly and reliably. Strict determinism can still say these repairs were inevitable, yet the important truth is that different inputs produce different futures you can feel in your bones. Libertarian hope can still ask for origination without causes, yet meaning seems richer when your actions track reasons you would defend on a calm afternoon. Treat prediction carefully because forecasts are conditional, and a small design change can flip conditions in ways that make better options actually reachable. Start with structural yeses like pre-scheduled workouts, automatic savings, or tools laid out before you sleep, so morning you is stronger without heroics. Add structural noes like device-free dinners, app limits during work, or a bedtime alarm that reminds you to protect the next day's attention. Use if-then scripts for moments that reliably trip you, because decided responses carry you through turbulence when improvisation would crumble into old habits. If the meeting runs long, then water before coffee, and if the discussion heats up, then one clarifying question before any conclusion. Hold compassion for the body that chooses, since hunger, fatigue, and humiliation tilt votes toward immediate relief and away from reasons you respect. Ask one friend to witness a single habit you actually want, and make the easiest version so starting beats another week of elegant postponement. Track progress visibly with calendar marks or jar beads, because seeing momentum calms doubt and keeps the project in motion on ordinary days. Rewrite systems when you can shape them, like shorter meetings, protected deep work, and exits that do not punish people for doing the right thing. Treat relapse as a map update rather than a verdict, and install the guardrail that would have prevented last week's skid with less effort. Keep a tiny constitution of 3 values and 1 weekly proof for each value, and retire promises you clearly never mean to keep. Your life becomes a long series of inner elections, and elections run best with quiet rooms, clear rules, honest ballots, and a closing time that prevents endless spin. Where could a single bright line end nightly negotiations you never win? And what gentle support would keep that line humane rather than harsh? Which pre-commitment could protect your best reasons during their weakest hour? And who would gladly help you tie the knot before the sirens begin? Which daily cue could you rename and rehearse so it becomes a door you open wisely rather than a trap you fall through again? If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Freedom is not leaving the road. Freedom is learning to steer on a slippery road, keeping your hands steady while looking where you truly want to go.